Are you 0-2 in your fantasy league? Is your team also riddled with injuries? Well, guess what? Look no further. Waiver Wire Week 3 episode is here. I'm going to go over all the injuries that happened between Week 1, Week 2, and the impacts they have, along with the guys you need to pick up to get you back on top of your fantasy leagues. Let's jump into it. And welcome back to Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono. My co-host, Chris, isn't here with me today, so I'll be giving you all the injury updates and the waiver wire advice coming straight to you from the Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. Before we jump into that, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification button so you get all the drops like this one you're watching now and the one coming up on Thursday morning, which is our Starts and Sits episode. You're going to want to watch that one going into Week 3. Now let's jump into the biggest things here, and that's going to be our injuries. Week to week, we deal with them. Throughout the season, you deal with them. Hopefully, they're short-term things for your players, but we have some big, impactful injuries this week and decisions that were made by teams placing people on IR. So first comes first, let's talk about real quick the CMC going to IR. That decision being made going into Week 2 weekend was tough for CMC owners, tough for the number one overall pick consensus there. However, right now, if you were lucky enough to draft Jordan Mason as a CMC owner to handcuff because you know he was injured coming into the draft, or if you were lucky enough to pay up big to get him, you're getting great return in your investment in Jordan Mason. So I think you should be fine there. If you missed out on that boat, then you're going to have to scrape through until CMC comes back. And once he comes back, and if he's healthy, he's going to be exactly what you drafted him to be going into the fantasy playoffs. Cooper Kupp is one that popped up on the injury report this week because of the ankle injury he sustained yesterday. I'm filming this as of Monday the 16th at about 5:30 p.m., so prior to the Monday night game. Just moments ago, Sean McVay had released a statement saying that he was going to miss extended period of time. So those of you who did end up going on the waiver wire last week and picking up people like Demarcus Robinson, and Johnson and Whittingham and the guys and the pass catchers, even the Parkinson guys that were picked up, those are the ones that are going to reap the most benefits here from this pass attack. However, I think it's a complete downgrade for this offense. You still have Matt Stafford throwing the ball, which is a huge benefit to the pass catchers. I just don't like the way this team looked this past weekend. They couldn't get anything going, period. So at the end of the day, you looked at Kyren Williams had another week of a 2.5 yards per carry. He got in the end zone again. He's going to get in the end zone. I don't have any concern about him losing his role in this offense. My concern is more that the games can get away from them like they did this past week. And once that happens, how often are they going to run the ball? And how often is Kyren going to be pass catching? Now, that may benefit now because he caught the ball real well last year. We know that. He's returning punts, so it's a good sign for that. They're going to need to catch the ball. But with other teams trying to make them one-dimensional and make them pass to these younger receivers and not these veterans that are blowing up games, it could be impactful to this entire team. But if they're available in your leagues, any of those guys available in your leagues, go out, put in a bid for them. Make sure you can get an opportunity to get one of these guys because somebody's going to have to catch the ball in Los Angeles. Isaiah Pacheco is another big one. Turns out to be a broken fibula. The report's coming out today. That's going to be an extended period of time. If you remember, Mark Andrews had this injury last year. A different modality of getting done, similar. The hip drop tackle for Andrews and then getting folded up on by Pacheco, but the bone still being fractured for both players. It took Andrew out for quite some time. He was able to return and play in the postseason, and I fully expect Pacheco to come back this season, especially if it's the postseason, but it doesn't bode well for Pacheco owners. There's no need to rush him back unless they are in dire straits for a running back. The difference between Andrews and Pacheco, one's a running back, one's a tight end. I think it would be a little bit more impactful for the running back, just as when you see pass catchers with sprained ankles returning, it doesn't impact them as much as it's impactful for a running back coming back from a sprained ankle. So more news to come in there. He's probably going to likely to go onto the IR in that scenario. So I'll talk about on the waiver side of things what my thoughts are from the running back selection in Kansas City. Tajay Spears had an ankle injury. He was looking pretty good and a little spry in that game, but that is Tony Pollard's backfield. But that's still something to keep on an eye on. Tony Pollard owners, it's great. But it doesn't look like it's going to be a long-term thing for Tajay, so no big deal for those owners there, but it is a Pollard backfield right now. He's looking pretty good. Tank Bigsby had a shoulder injury. That's one to keep an eye on. Again, great for the Travis Etienne owners. He's going to get a boatload of carries there. A lot less happy for the people who invested in Tank Bigsby after that Week 1 performance. Taysom Hill had a chest injury. He ended up going to the hospital, precautionary reasons to take a look at it. He ended up flying back to New Orleans for that, so it looks like everything's going to be okay. I don't know if he's going to be in the game this week, so if you invested on the Taysom Hill project as a tight end on the booming Saints offense, you may want to think about dropping him back down because Foster Moreau seems to be the main target from the tight end selection. You were pretty much hoping for Taysom Hill on his rushing upside. I don't know how much rushing upside is going to be when you have somebody like Kamara actually playing as well as he is too. On the quarterback side of things, Justin Herbert is getting x-rays today. As of now, there haven't been any big reports that come out. This is huge for this team. We know how impactful it was for Herbert last year just to break a finger and having that issue and not being able to play under center. Well, this is a foot injury. If he has to miss any time here, I mean, I don't like this team at all in terms of players. I know J.K. Dobbins is the way to go, and I think this offensive line can still block for him. That's probably your best bet. But if teams decide to start stacking the box on him and making someone like Easton Stick, if he's still even there, throw the ball, we'll see what comes. I know Justin Herbert is a tough guy, so it's most likely he's going to try and play through whatever he has. But if it is a fracture of any sort, especially a Liz Frank or anything like that, that's going to be some time to miss for sure. Those are the injury reports I have for you right now. Any other ones we'll be happy to bring in shorts form or we'll highlight going into our Thursday episode when we talk about our starts and sits. Let's talk about waivers here. Oh, you know what? There is one I do want to talk about. Let's talk about Evan Ingram real quick because that happened right up until game. He hurt it in pregame, hamstring injury for Ingram. Backup ended up coming in, having a decent game, strong. So that's one thing. He had, to me is one thing that we could note. Trevor Lawrence is going to throw to his tight ends at times, so he's a decent enough flyer of a pickup for this team. I think he had 7 targets. So one of the things you just want to keep an – oh, no, I think he had 6 targets. But, 6 targets, 3 catches, 65 yards. We'll talk about them in the waiver option if you want a quick filler for Evan Ingram if he's going to be out again. So let's talk about waiver wire. I'm going to start with the quarterbacks top here. Derrick Carr needs to be owned. He's proved for 2 weeks in a row that the Clint Kubiak system is working in New Orleans. They play Philly week 3. He's only 21% owned. We know Philly is susceptible to the pass. I think this is a great opportunity if you're streaming quarterbacks. If you were a Tua owner this weekend, I mean, even if you're a Jared Goff as your main quarterback and he's underperforming, there's hope there. I mean, he's outperformed Patrick Mahomes in 2 weekends in a row. That's got to say something. This offense is fantastic, especially when you have Alvin Kamara out the backfield. He's been averaging 225 yards and 2 touchdowns a game. And he's got 3 touchdown passes of over 50 yards in the first 2 weeks. So it's a big play type of offense, and it's going to be opened up that way, which also opened up Kamara. So big benefit to the Kamara owners there. My next quarterback is Sam Darnold. This just proves that the Jets just cannot, this organization cannot harbor a good quarterback or turn a young, good quarterback into something that's worthy of a NFL caliber style quarterback and offense, which is why they went for Aaron Rodgers. But you look at Geno Smith and what he's doing, and you look at Sam Darnold and what he's doing now. He's only 21% owned as well, and he's been averaging about 230 yards offense. He's got the best wide receiver in football there, who did get a little bit banged up. I didn't mention in the injury side because it seemed like it was just a bruise, and he's not worried about it. So we'll talk a bit more about that on Thursday's episode if it looks like he may miss a week. But, 230 yards a game and 2 touchdowns a game for Sam Darnold I think is worth a pickup. And the other guy, too, that I really think is going to be an interesting one, is number 3 on my list is Gardner Minshew. They're going to get some softer teams coming up here. They play Carolina in week 3, so if you're streaming quarterbacks, here's a big one. If it's for DFS, here's a big one, and also player prop bets, anything like that, daily fantasy. Here's some guy you want to try and target. He's averaging about 250 yards because they can't run the ball in Las Vegas, and it's only a touchdown a game. But that being said, I think Gardner Minshew's got the volume and opportunities where he can reel off a couple multi-touchdown games and make himself a top 10 quarterback finish in a week, especially with Devontae Adams. Brock Bowers is playing his mind off, leading all these tight ends in a week-by-week basis in a fantasy season where tight ends are fizzling out. They weren't the thing of the past 2 seasons like we saw. Skyler Thompson is somebody I want to make note of here because he's 0% owned, and all those Tua owners are going to need somebody possibly, especially in maybe a super flex league where everybody's pretty much bought up. But Skyler Thompson being 0% owned, he in deeper leagues provides you somewhat of an upside because of the fact he has weapons. You have a lot of yards after the catch type players. You have Achane, you have Hill, you have Waddle. I mean, Jonnu Smith is great through the screen game as a tight end. Having players like that allow him to do less and let them do more. And so he's somebody to keep an eye on. And if you want to get ahead of your leagues, especially a super flex league, go grab him, stash him on your bench, and see what happens in the next couple of weeks because he has opportunities with that offense to be something really good. I mean, listen, Tua is an accurate quarterback, but he doesn't have the best arm in the league. He doesn't always make the best decisions. You give those receivers to some of these other quarterbacks, I think you'll see a lot of good things happen too. That's not undervaluing Tua and his talent in the NFL. I'm just saying Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, 2 of the fastest wide receivers in the league. Then you add one of the fastest running backs in the league. That speed cannot be matched. So that's it for my quarterbacks for this week. Going to running backs, J.K. Dobbins, I want to make note here, he's still only 82% owned in sleeper leagues. That means there's 18% of leagues out there that he is unowned. He should be owned in 100% of leagues right now. He needs to be the top of the list. If he's open in your league and available, go grab him now. And then Jordan Mason is another name too as well, that if he is not 100% owned. I think he's owned in the 90%. He's another one that should be owned 100% right now because these guys are real 100-yard games in offenses that scheme running very well. They want to establish the run to open up the pass, and they have really very little competition behind him. Gus Edwards in L.A., and then you have Isaac Orendo over there in San Francisco who's not seeing the field. And Gus Edwards isn't really doing much with the ball when he gets in there. Kamani Vidal and some of these other guys aren't sniffing the field. Dearness Johnson is 0% owned. This is a deeper leagues move here. If Bigsby is out for a significant period of time, if there's anything bad with the shoulder, he's going to be the next man up behind Travis Etienne. And I know they want to spell touches from Etienne here and there, and they could do it with Dearness Johnson if they don't want to make him the bell cow. Cam Akers, we saw Joe Mixon with an ankle injury. I didn't put him on our injury report today because he did come back into the game and play. He is going to get some tests done today on it, but the fact that he came back in, he didn't play every single down, but he looked spry, he still looked good, was a good sign. It may be a non-factor, but it looked pretty gruesome of an injury when it happened. Cam Akers is going to be the next man up. I know Dameon Pierce is somebody that people do want to own, but he's got a hamstring injury himself. And I don't suspect this being a long-term injury before Joe Mixon. So Cam Akers is going to be the first man up. Hamstring and inactive this past last night's game against Chicago for Dameon Pierce. I don't see him playing this week again either, especially hamstring with a running back. Now let's talk about the big one here. In light of the injury to Pacheco, the question is Carson, Steele, or Samaje Perine. But let me throw another name in there because it was already mentioned today, and I literally had this conversation as soon as that injury happened to Pacheco, was they need to go out and get Kareem Hunt in for a workout and see if he's still got what it takes, because this is a guy who was drafted and picked up by the Chiefs, had a fantastic rookie season with the Chiefs before his legal issues ended up happening, and he ended up getting booted from the team the next year, and then eventually landed with the Browns and had a great tenure with the Browns. He has an opportunity to come back here, and he's, to me, the one of these three backs that is a three-down back. He can pass protect. He can catch. He can run between the tackles. He can do short yardage. He's hard to tackle. He's elusive. I know you have young Carson Steele there. So if Kareem Hunt wasn't in the play, I would say I take him first because he's going to get the initial running back game. And then you've got your Samaje Perine, who they signed, who would have opportunities coming out the backfield, third down, pass protection, and get some runs of his own. I like Steele, the younger guy, more, and he's tougher to tackle. We saw some great things in preseason. But now with Kareem Hunt in the mix, if your league allows it to, or if you have somebody that's worthy of dropping, that's playing tonight or played tonight, I would have went out and got him already. I can't give you that advice now because it's already past the fact. But say you had Will Shipley. You should have dropped Shipley and went ahead and picked up Kareem Hunt just in case, because if he does go there, may not be this week, but by next week, he'll be good to go. And I know Andy Reid trusts him. I mean, there's a reason they drafted him. So that would be my order. It would be, if Kareem Hunt officially signs with them, it would be Hunt, Steele, Perine. If not Steele, then Perine. That's just because I feel like I know Mahomes does throw to his backs, but you have Kelsey. I mean, they threw to a offensive lineman this past week for a touchdown. There's other weapons there now too, especially with Xavier Worthy, who's probably going to get uptick in some rushing opportunities with his speed. Rashee Rice may get some end around. So again, I'd rather go with the guy that can run between the tackles, the short yardage, try and get those touchdowns when they're down in the red zones. Wide receiver wise, I said it this offseason, I'll mark it here. Quentin Johnston. Could this be his breakout performance that we were all expecting last year? Well, he sure made a case for himself yesterday with the fact that he was able to get 2 touchdowns. He only amassed 50 yards, but the team ran the ball really well, so they didn't need to really pass too much between the 20s. But 50 yards out there, beautiful catch, and then a wide open target. He was, he was 8 of 11 for 89 yards is what I wrote down here, I believe. But he 2 touchdowns, or he's 8 of 11 for the season, 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's got around 11 yards per catch average on the season. He is looking to be that wide receiver one, be the main receiver there. Josh Palmer was out with injury, but he bypassed Ladd McConkey in terms of that red zone target. I think that's what he's going to be. He's going to be big body threat, red zone target. He's got deep catchability as well if you can track him and catch him better. But in the red zone area, I think they're going to get comfortable Herbert, if Herbert's in there and not injured, throwing. So that's something to keep an eye on too. I would drop him in my waiver pickups if Herbert is going to be out for an extended period of time. Jalen Nailor is another one here. He's only 5% owned. This is a quick filler because of the Addison injury, and you want to check on that Addison ankle injury if he's going to be out for, I suspect, another 2 weeks. They didn't put him on IR, so I don't think it's going to be 4+ weeks, but I suspected maybe 2-3 weeks. So there's a chance he misses this week, then he's back, or he misses one more week, and then he's back. But in the short term, he's had 2 touchdowns in back-to-back games. In week 1, as soon as Addison came out, Nailor replaced him in the role. Nailor had the touchdown a couple plays later, and then Nailor had another touchdown against the 49ers defense as well. So he's somebody that has that touchdown capital, especially for if you look at the likes of Devonta Smith and some of these other receivers that are playing behind these stud wide receivers for their teams that demand a lot of target share and opportunity. The secondary receiver, the number 2 man, is going to benefit at times from getting one-on-one coverage. And if you're talented enough, these guys like Addison is and Nailor showing can be, or Devonta Smith, we know he is, you're going to get opportunities. And you're going to get opportunities for big chunk plays. So I like Jalen Nailor if you're really in deeper leagues and need to grab somebody in the short term. We already talked about Tyler Johnson, Denard Robinson. These guys are going to be out there. They're the top 2 guys there because Kupp and Nakua are gone. Temper your expectations. They're going to get targets. This Rams defense looked terrible this past week against the Cardinals. I thought it was going to be a little bit better. I mean, they played the Lions really well week 1, but then I watched the Lions this past weekend, and they looked exactly why the Rams were able to play them well week 1. But Stafford's still throwing the ball to these guys. He's accurate, good arm passer. He's going to throw his guys open. So as long as they could run their routes, get themselves open, they're going to have opportunities. I like trying to get one of these guys if you can, if they haven't been picked up already. Rashid Shaheed is one of the top 5 wide receivers in fantasy football right now. He is 57% owned. I get it. He is a deep ball threat. He is a one-trick pony because you take away these 70-yard touchdowns here and there. What are you left with? You're left with a 30-yard game, 20-yard game, a couple catches. He's getting 4 targets or he's getting 3 targets here and there. But this New Orleans offense is rolling. And when you have Kareem, Alvin Kamara, rolling on that offense, it's going to open the passing game for Derrick Carr. I still don't think Derrick Carr is the best quarterback in the NFL, but he does throw a good deep ball, and he's not afraid to throw it. So that's the one thing you guarantee with Shaheed. He's going to get 1, 2, maybe 3 out of these opportunities a game. And if he comes down with one of them, he could win you the week easily. He can hit your double-digit points in one play. If you have a spot on your bench for him, go get him. This is one of my top picks because just the opportunities he's going to have. He's doing it against a Cowboys defense in week 2, who's pretty darn good. I just like the opportunities they're going to make, and they're not going to go away from that. Kubiak is going to want to make sure that happens. The last wide receiver I have here has shown to be a formidable force for this offense, even though week 2, this offense kind of fizzled out a little bit. But Alec Pierce, he is a thing. 7 targets in week 2 and another touchdown in week 2. He's becoming a good go-to target for Anthony Richardson, probably because he's a great route runner. He's getting himself open. We heard in the camp that this was going to be a competition for wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 between him, Adonai Mitchell, Josh Downs. Well, Downs has been a non-factor because he's been injured. Adonai Mitchell's still a rookie. He's still trying to get – he's green behind the ears. He's trying to get his feet underneath him. He's had some good plays here and there. He's had some missed opportunities. But Alec Pierce is taking advantage of every opportunity he's getting. So if he's available in your leagues and you're looking for a wide receiver, you just lost Puka, you just lost Kupp, anybody like that, and you're looking to try and fill a spot here, this is an opportunity to grab somebody as a depth piece, play the opportunities in a game where Indy may be throwing the ball. And again, 7 targets is a worthy flex play for Alec Pierce in your lineup. Before I jump into the tight end streamers and defenses of the week, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification button, and give us comments because the waiver wire here is one thing and the start and sits is another thing, but trades is always an option. I know it's early in the season. I don't always advise trading away, but if you've got somebody that's a hot hand and you've got massive injuries, say you lost Pacheco and you lost Puka Nacua and you lost CMC or you lost CMC and Cooper Kupp, and you're in this situation where you lost 2 of your pivotal pieces, you have underperforming players everywhere else, you can try and make a trade to better your team now for the long run, and even though you're going to give up one of these pieces. So send us a comment. Leave us a note, send us a direct message, either here on YouTube, or you can get to our Instagram page and do the same thing. We want to give you advice on a trade opportunity. If somebody's offering you something or you want to offer somebody something, we had a great win on a trade opportunity this past weekend that I think will come to fruition. It didn't show up with Tank Dell last night, but we told this guy to try out to pick up Tank Dell for Terry McLaurin, and the guy in his league bid on it. He's got Tank Dell. He's got an opportunity on a great offense there. They played a tough defense last night, but a great offense there versus, Terry McLaurin's getting passes from a rookie quarterback that's a big-time running quarterback in an offense that, isn't really firing on all cylinders right now. And so he was able to sell, high enough and buy low on Tank Dell. So hopefully that, turns out the way that I think it is going to. But that's the type of advice we want to give you guys. And right now, while we're a small channel, we got just over 500 subscribers. We have opportunities to do that for you and for the listeners out here. So let's get into these streamers here because I don't know what's going on the tight end level of things here this year. Last year, we had a big group of good, decent tight ends you could throw out every single week. You could stick with one and ride the hot hand or ride them out. Right now, Travis Kelce's not doing anything. He's had 2 very underperforming weeks. And, that's in tandem with Pat Mahomes. Everybody else on the top of the list is just not doing well fantasy-wise. So except for the guy I like the most coming into the league, and the value he was at was Brock Bowers. Obviously, he knows a game changer. But Hunter Henry is going to do Hunter Henry things. He's one of my top streamers here to pick up and stream him on a week-to-week basis. He's got a rapport with Jacoby Brissett. He's going to be open. He's going to get checked down. He's going to get peppered. He went over 100 yards this past week. So I fully expect that to be the case, especially with the young wide receiver core that the Patriots have. And this defense for the Patriots is going to keep their offense on the field a little bit more often. They're going to be run heavy first. So that's a good thing. He's going to be on the field already. So he's going to be on the field for play actions, and he's going to be on to disguise some chip and goes. So I like Hunter Henry for that purpose. He is not the flashiest name out there, not the flashiest player, but he's going to at least give you a solid floor. Mike Gesicki had a 90-plus yard week here for the Bengals. I think that showed in a game against the Chiefs, where the Chiefs also gave up a massive game to Likely and some big chunk plays they did to Gesicki as well. Look to maybe stream tight ends against the Chiefs. Let's like to see week 3, week 4 if there's a trend in that, but that may be the way to go and feel confident starting a tight end regardless who it is against the Chiefs to exploit that. But that being said, Gesicki is somebody that you can, wait and see if there is going to be another week missed by T. Higgins, because somebody's going to have to benefit on these targets, and it could be Mike Gesicki that we've seen for the first couple weeks. We talked about Strange for the Jacksonville Jaguars in place of Ingram. He actually had 6 targets, caught 3 for 65. Like I said, Trevor Lawrence likes throwing to the tight ends, likes throwing to his guys. Christian Kirk is, quietly fading away on this offense. And besides, Brian Robinson Jr., or Brian Thomas Jr., sorry, the Gabe Davis is the only guy that's really getting any big chunk plays, and he looks his way besides the tight end position. So this team is going to want to pass the ball, and is going to be passing the ball late in games. They've had 2 close ones back to back. So I'd like to see what Strange could do if Ingram is gone again. Again, this is a streamer. It's not necessarily going to be a every week starter because Ingram is the main guy there. Now, one guy that you could pick up that's a little bit more than a streamer is going to be Zach Ertz. What's a rookie's best friend? A fantastic route running and catching tight end. And Zach Ertz has done that his entire career. And he's pretty much going to be a safety blanket for Daniels. And he's been open. He showed it with the Giants. He's going to show it week to week. And Ben Sinnott is still a rookie. He's not getting the looks and the opportunities and the routes run that some people may have expected going into it. But I myself liked Ertz going into the season, and I think he's going to continue to perform as long as he stays healthy. And then the last one is, again, let's ride the hot hand of the New Orleans Saints. Foster Moreau is the tight end that's seeing the most time on the field, the most snaps and opportunities. He had a touchdown called back this past week that led to Alvin Kamara's 4th touchdown. Unfortunately, I played Kamara this week, which kind of sucked. But Foster Moreau is going to give you good looks from Derrick Carr, good opportunities. Let's not forget, like Derrick Carr had Darren Waller. Derrick Carr had people to throw to at times from the tight end position that he's liked. And Foster Moreau already had a touchdown week 1, had a second touchdown call back week 2. He's going to keep going to Foster Moreau. Juwan Johnson is great. He's still coming off that offseason injury, and he's not getting the snap opportunities and counts that Foster Moreau is. So I like Foster as my tight end streamer here as well. And tight end streamers are great for people that are like me, where Jake Ferguson gets hurt. And, Schumacher had a great game this past week. And again, Ferguson I think is a better tight end. And I think the Cowboys know that too, but you can't start a guy who's injured. So I was thinking to myself, who am I going to go with? And Foster Moreau's a guy that I'm looking to maybe start if you also are missing out on Jake Ferguson this week. Defensive streamers of the week for me are going to be the Raiders versus the Panthers. Not only are the Panthers not playing good football, they're also bringing back the Red Rocket this week. They are benching Bryce Young in lieu of Andy Dalton. This is a change from the head coach position. I guess he wants to keep his job because they're playing so bad. And let's not forget, Bryce Young was not part of this coaching regime's draft opportunity. I mean, you cut your bait real quick. I think this is one of the fastest ones we've seen in history. But that being said, Andy Dalton is good for interceptions. Andy Dalton is good for getting sacked. So I think the way the Raiders are playing and what they did to Lamar Jackson is going to be a great opportunity for them versus the Panthers this week. I also like the Seahawks versus Miami without Tua. That's going to be interesting. Now, that one I temper a little bit because they may unleash Achane a little bit, and that could change things up, and Mostert could be back, so it could be a heavy running game and dump-offs, and those guys do a lot with space. But I still like the opportunity for the Seahawks, who've been good against the run and stingy overall. And I think those are my favorite two here. I want to say maybe one other option would be against the Steelers this week. I am not a big fan of what this offense is doing, and the way the Steelers are running the ball with Justin Fields, they're not really able to pass that often, committing a lot of penalties. When I look at what is coming up for the Steelers this week, you can get the Chargers against the Steelers, and the Chargers have been able to get to the quarterback. They've been able to keep the passing volume down for both the Raiders week 1 and the Panthers week 2. You ride the hot hand here. This is the last week you get for the Chargers before they start playing some legitimate offensive competition. I like playing the kickers in that game this week. Both the Steelers and the Chargers are going to, Boswell and Dick are going to have some good opportunities to put points on the board in this, especially if Herbert is out, just because I think it's going to be a long day for the Chargers there. But those are my 3 streaming defenses. If you have any other questions, leave a comment. If there's anybody else you want opinions on waivers, leave a comment. Otherwise, don't forget, again, like, subscribe, hit that notification button. Tune in for our next episode on Thursday where we will give you our starts and sits. And, hey, we may give you a few fun player prop bets to go along with it. As always, thanks for tuning in. See you next time.